What is up, 12 Nation? You're on the Hawk Alert. I'm Saahil Kapoor. Today we're talking about day one free agency. What have the Seahawks done? They've came out of the gates and they've been firing in all places, spending their money quick. So let's get in this one. Cue that in. The first guy we're going to be talking about today is Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs has been the leader of the Seattle Seahawks defense for the last 2 years, I'd say. He's contributed greatly. I really am truly happy that he's back. I just kind of wish the Seahawks played it a bit differently. They signed him for a 3-year, $40 million contract. And the way that the Seahawks are rolling right now, I don't know if signing a safety for $40 million was the smartest option, especially since you have Jamal Adams under contract for the next few years at a high number. So I don't know if this was the smartest choice by the Seattle Seahawks. I think a smarter choice would have been possibly taking a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who I've personally been high on since the Seahawks got the 9th pick in the draft. And possibly having a guy like Kyle Hamilton on this team would be way different than having Quandre Diggs, because you have that young presence, a taller guy, faster guy, stronger guy, and a cheaper guy. Obviously, when it comes to offseason, we're only going to be talking about money. It's not going to be a lot about football. It's going to be all about money, because cap space is important. And if you want good players, you have to have cap. You have to have money. So, Schneider and Kittle coming out today, signing Diggs for 3-year, $40 million. I like that he's going to be on the team for the next 3 years. Losing Bobby Wagner was tough, so I'm happy. We're going to get into him later. The next guy is Will Dissley. The Seahawks signed him for a 3-year, $24 million contract. This was a signing I absolutely despise. I hate this signing. I wish the Seahawks didn't do it, but unfortunately it's already inked. We're going to get into that one later as well. The next signing was Al Woods, 2-year, $9 million contract. I'm just kind of neutral with this signing. And the last one today, Sidney Jones, 1-year, $3.6 million. It was day one of free agency, and Seahawks re-signed 4 guys, and they're bringing back these 4 guys, and I'm happy to see what these guys are going to do next year, for sure. I kind of wish they didn't get Quandre Diggs, like I said, because he's kind of expensive, but we're going to look at the positives, and the positives are he's a leader on this defense. He's great in zone. 3-4 is the Seattle Seahawks scheme, and what he's been running the last 2 years, he's just a lurk. He's lurkers. He lurks in the shadow. He reads the quarterback's eyes. If you watch some Quandre Diggs highlights, you'll see that this guy is always where the ball is, and that's something that every football team needs. They need a lurker that can always be right next to the ball and be ready to pick off that ball whenever they can. Quandre Diggs is that guy. He's great in coverage. He's never going to disappoint. A lot of people make fun of Jamal Adams for being terrible in coverage. Quandre Diggs is that guy that can step up. Many people were upset that he wasn't an all-pro this year, and I can see why. The dude just amazing. Ultimately, I guess I'm happy that he's back for the next 3 years, because Quandre Diggs is that guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Quandre Diggs does next year. He's kind of a veteran, 29-year-old. He's been in the league for a long time. This guy knows what he's doing. He's going to be on board with this rebuilding Seattle Seahawks roster. Next one is Will Dissley. And I'm very upset that the Seahawks did this. Last year, they didn't use the guy. I think he was hurt for some time. They had Gerald Everett. This year, they have an elite tight end in Noah Fant. Some say top 5. You could your tight end rankings are your opinion. If Noah Fant truly is a top 5 tight end in this league, and you run a West Coast Shanahan type offense, I have to think by signing Will Dissley for the next 3 years, this kind of shows that Pete Carroll's moving on from the West Coast scheme, because the West Coast schemes don't have 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets. It's typically 1 tight end, 3 receivers, single back type offense. I'm in a gun type offense. Single back is more what the Seahawks are aiming for, I guess, now. So spread offense possibly could be coming to Seattle with Will Dissley and Noah Fant could be on the same field at once. And Fant's a great blocker, great strong guy. Dissley's also obviously a great blocker too. So now you look at these 2 guys, and now you're running a 2 tight end set. You put Metcalf, Lockett on one side, and now you can kind of have fun. You have your running back. Now you can start to have fun, more bootleg actions, some quicker passes. We know Locke is not the most accurate, but we do know he has a good deep ball. Single back involves a lot of deep ball, so I think I kind of like this. If this is the case, if Pete Carroll's still going to run a West Coast type offense, then this is a terrible signing, because Will Dissley will not get any playing time and just waste of money. But if the Seahawks are really going to change their whole offensive scheme this year and possibly run a new Shane Waldron offense, then this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I honestly, it's hard for me to tell now if the Seahawks are rebuilding or they're not. Some say a soft rebuild, but with Deshaun Watson coming out today and saying the 2 teams he wants to play for are the Panthers and Saints, I don't think that a soft rebuild is the right option. And now you got people saying that Malik Willis and Matt Corral are going to be the 9th pick in the draft. This is kind of getting a bit ridiculous. Matt Corral, Malik Willis are not top 10 material in my eyes. I'd say they're very good quarterbacks, but if the Seahawks want a good quarterback, I think the best option right now is either keeping Locke or just getting Kaepernick. That's really it for Will Dissley. It really depends what offensive scheme the Seahawks are running next year, because this could either be a great signing or a terrible signing. Could haunt the Seahawks for the next few years, just waste money. Next signing is Al Woods. Signed for 2 years, $9 million. Woods is a very old NFL player, about 35. I kind of like it. It's cheap, right? $4.5 a year. It's not that expensive. And for what Al Woods does, he's a veteran presence in the locker room, veteran presence on the field as well. And that's always important to have on every football team. You always need a guy that's leading the young guys. The Seahawks have a lot of young guys on that line. Darrell Taylor, Poona Ford. And now that Al Woods is back, maybe he can help these guys a bit more and help them get to that next level. So Al Woods ultimately not a bad signing. Veteran presence is always key in a football team. And I'm happy that Woods is back. Looking forward to the next 2 years with him. Sidney Jones is the last signing for today. 1 year, $3.6 million. Sidney Jones is great in the 3-4 scheme. I really like the way that Carroll uses him, or the way that K&J used him. But you can't really get mad at this signing. It's $3.6 million. If you watch Sidney Jones, he's a hard hitter. He gives it his all on Sundays, and ultimately, a hard hitter is what you need on an NFL team. You got Jamal Adams, Sidney Jones. Some of these guys, they're just aggressive players, and that's always important to have. You always want to be a fearmonger, and you always want to put fear in the other team's eyes. So Sidney Jones, he's not the greatest guy in coverage, but he's always a possible nickel corner option. He's kind of a hybrid safety corner. Great football player, hard hitter. You can't go wrong with these cheap signings because ultimately it's just only going to help the Seahawks. With Deshaun Watson coming out and saying he doesn't want to play for the Seahawks, which is kind of sad. I think now you can just start firing your money, start putting it into areas where you actually need to improve. Offensive line and defensive line are my two areas that I think the Seahawks need to improve. If you're a Seahawks fan, you may be depressed right now. You may be sad, but I got some good news for you. The way that the Seahawks are going to be going these next 2 years, they have 3 top 41 picks. I mean, this is already looking good. You get a good. They just can't mess up this 9th pick. If they mess it up, then that could be pretty bad. But if they don't mess up this 9th pick, this could end up really well. If they draft some good players at 40 and 41, this could end up very well. The Seahawks could be contending for a Super Bowl in the next few years. Pete Carroll seems like he's pretty experienced with developing quarterbacks, especially since he worked in college. He developed Russell Wilson. He made him into who he is. Possibly Pete Carroll could fix up Drew Lock, help him with his accuracy, and we could definitely see a new version of Drew Lock. Or maybe he wants to go the route and bring in a guy like Colin Kaepernick, and Kaepernick could be the new leader of this offense. I trust Pete Carroll. He has 3 first-round picks in the next 2 years. He has 4 second-rounders. I trust Pete Carroll. I mean, so I know a lot of you guys don't. Pete Carroll is a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think if there's a guy in the Seahawks front office that we can trust right now, it's Pete Carroll. We just got to see what he wants to do. If he wants to go full-out rebuild, he's going to trade Metcalf and Lockett for some potential picks. But it doesn't seem like he's doing that. Some fun things that I just saw today was Tyler Lockett was training with Colin Kaepernick. This is not going to be by any means a quarterback video, but that's just like something I saw. Like, I've been talking about Colin Kaepernick this video. Could Colin Kaepernick be in a Seattle Seahawks uniform? You never know. Make sure to follow the Twitter, the Instagram. That's going to be in the description below. Cannot access that. It's the Hawk Alert. All one word. I hope you liked today's episode. Any suggestions or any comments, if you want to communicate me, you can shoot me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. Comment below. Go Hawks. Trust Carroll. 12 Nation. I'm out.